Amazing. So I'm gonna spend hopefully not more than 10 minutes. I tend to talk a little bit too much on this quick presentation so that the majority of, like the very basic content on, hey, how's the deal structured and so on, is explained. And you guys have a very clear idea of EWOR as an organization, because very untypical to most organizations that invest. We are not a fund. We deploy money from the balance sheet, and we're primarily trying to build an organization um, parallel to our fellows building an organization. And we are trying to build $1 billion organization, just as like the others try to do. So we always do this as a co-founder on a co-founder level. We also don't take board seats and so on. We're quite unique in that regard, and I really want to intro you to EWOR first, so that you have a little bit of calibration, and then you know what to ask afterwards. So your question might get answered before. So maybe wait 5 to 10 more minutes or so with a Q&A. Good. So the headline, the summary is uh, €500,000, which is roughly $600,000 right now, for outlier founders. And this is a very important part, right? Like we're not a charity and trying to do the thing that is most fair, or the person who needs it the most. We're looking for the people who have what it takes to build a $10 billion plus organization. And some of us in the team have built $10 billion organizations, so they can help you get there faster. To embark on a completely modular fellowship is another important sentence here, because we are not running a program. So it's not like you join EWOR, then you do 3 months, and then, like it's the end. We have a lot of unicorn founders that did EWOR. The first one joined us 1.5 years ago, and by now there's been many. And the reason someone who's already built $1 billion organization does this fellowship is specifically because there's no program, right? They want support, and I will talk about the support fast, and that needs to be incredibly helpful. And otherwise, it's not worth it, right? And first-time founders, they need a little bit more hand-holding sometimes. And we have a lot of first-time founders. Still, the majority of investments we do is first-time founders. We also recognize that all trillion-dollar organizations were built by first-time founders, with the exception of Elon Musk. The statement was true last year still, but since Elon, it's not true anymore. But until that, all of those trillion-dollar organizations, right, they were built by first-time founders. So we love first-time founders, and therefore we need to be able to give more to first-timers, right? I will explain how this works in a second. And the most important thing, the people running this fellowship, the people who are full-time doing this, they're unicorn and decacorn founders themselves, which is our core philosophy of what we do, for founders by founders. The headlines here, the unfair advantage we provide is, of course, we help you bring exceptional talent, exceptional investors early on. At the time of me giving this presentation, 25% of EWOR fellows that joined us in the last half year raised on a 9-figure valuation. So people are moving very fast. 10% of them raise on a valuation higher than 250 million. They raise on average $6 million, which is by now around 7 times of what the average raise expected is at YC. At YC, you have way more peers, right? You have around 600 or so other founders. With us, it's much less. It's 30 founders in total, but therefore, of course, your average is way higher. And 9 people who are part of the full-time team of EWOR, right? It's very important. They're not just posing on the website. They're part of the full-time team. Have created organizations valued between 100 million and 10 billion. So to make this a little bit more tangible, 4 stories of recent EWOR fellows. In January, Martin joined us, who is like an exceptional serial entrepreneur. He raised a 10 million round with 8VC in May, and then onboarded a super strong team, up to 10,000 users in March or April, if I'm not mistaken, in the process of closing a 50 million round Series A at this point in time, as we're speaking, actually. Alphonse joined EWOR in September last year or October. I'm not 100% sure anymore. And he raised 23 million on a $325 million valuation. It might look a little bit weird me waving right now, but I need to get the light back in my telephone box. 1 second. Let's see if this works. If not, I'll just continue dark. No, there we go. Um, so we expect people to move exceptionally fast, right? Just to make this billion-dollar thing a little bit more tangible. Um, uh, Many people are there in half a year, a quarter there, right? Like so, but almost, right? Or third in terms of Alphonse. Ilaria joined the Ideation Fellowship, went from no idea in January, to co-founder to secured angel round, a fully operational lab, already testing the first organoids. We chatted yesterday about like one sample worked super well, one didn't so well. That's the kind of speed we expect from EWOR Fellows, right? Prachit, same thing, joined in January, no idea, no team. To team, his solution integrated by the United Nations. He's building incredible tech that allows you to simulate artificial societies. And raised, if I'm not mistaken, now on a $40 million valuation. Um, Again, right now. So things can go really, really fast with EWOR at EWOR, and that's exactly what we want, right? We're looking for people who can move that fast. We're looking for people who just do in a month what an ordinary person does in 24 months or 12 months. And that's the EWOR fellows. And I hope these stories make it a little bit more tangible for you to understand, hey, what are we expecting of you? Because we, of course, also have expectations. We expect you to move incredibly fast and go incredibly far. Um, this is a team. I've now talked about the team very abstractly, right? But these are the people behind it. For example, Paul, who built Adjust, sold it for 1.2 billion. He was a CTO and is an ex-physicist, so both him and I are very technical. He then bought a Formula 4, Formula 3, Formula 2 race car team, so he's also an avid racer. And then invested in EWOR and eventually joined the team full time. Me, I've built New Now Group, Sigma Squared, EWOR and Analytics, collectively probably valued around 500 million by now. I've invested also in 7 unicorns as an angel prior to EWOR. Alex built ProGlove, sold it for 500 million, and co-invented design thinking. He's exceptionally good when it comes to ideating and finding the right idea, which is like a core thesis of the Ideation Fellowship. There's probably, I at least haven't ever met a better person to do this. I believe he's the best person around to really help you structure your thoughts and maximize the likelihood of coming up with a good idea. Flo built United Domains, European market leader when it comes to domain registration and brokering, sold it to 1&1. Then he built Nova Compass AG, again a market leader that he's sold to Scout24. He also was the business angel of the year in 2018 already. Then he built a fund called Signature, 14 exited, and is a father of 4 kids. Lian, 2 Stanford degrees, MBA from Stanford, also education, masters from Stanford. She's the mastermind behind really thinking about, hey, how do we structure our experiences at EWOR? What is educational for someone who already built a billion-dollar organization and what isn't, right? What is educational for a first-time founder? How do we need to, distinguish those two? And so on and so forth, right? And also, what I really love about this slide, in this slide, you see 2 people who've built companies before and 2 people who are absolute first-time founders. By the way, Alphonse reps his first ever company. He doesn't even have a degree. He studied physics, but he didn't really get the degree. And yet he can race out of the mountains of Tyrol on a 300 million valuation, right? And then build probably a world-changing company. He builds street power plants that take energy from trucks and convert it so that especially ports and cities can still use them. And one of the first ones to actually figure out energy harvesting in an economically useful way. And these, so in this slide, you see people who are doing it for the first time extraordinarily well, and people who've done it multiple times before, right? And Jan is the mastermind behind figuring out a modular experience, right, that works for these very, very different characters. And that's also the beautiful part when it comes to the community. Some of the people you'll meet have literally done this before a couple of times. By now, I would say like 30, 40% or so of the fellows have like had a very significant major exit. And the others will just be the top of their field, and you'll just gain so much from this incredible community. And of course, you'll meet all of us as well. These are some of the others. Peta, also full time, built SumUp, which is worth now 8 billion euros, $10 billion. Um, and Rooms, uh, Quinton built Felix, ride sharing in with mopeds in the Netherlands, raised 80 million for it, scaled it to 500 people, structured the team and everything, ran the company as CEO, and then exited the company successfully to private equity, then was an investor for a while, and then joined us full time. Hubertus built the brand that many of you might be familiar with, My Muesli. He's not just a partner, he's also our CMO. He initially was an investor, then he was an advisor, and then he eventually and very fortunately joined us full time last year. He scaled My Muesli to 800 employees, built Europe's #1 food brand with it, grew it to 85 million revenue per year. And also, he then started a deep tech company, Project Eden, that is not listed here, raised 27 million from it, amongst others from Creandum. Gigi, our CIO, 3 times founder, 2 exits in progress, I would say. And started Battelle, scaled it to 60 people, which is probably the coolest sleep tech venture on the market. Charles built a company, sold it to Microsoft, then built another company, sold it to Oracle, worked there directly with Larry Ellison. Then he got bored, started doing movies, won an Oscar for the movie, and is also a prolific angel. He preceded Hicksfield, which is now the fastest growing company in the world, 200 million ARR in 8 months. So he definitely knows what moving fast means and is looking for founders that move fast. And basically, he just joined the team. We haven't officially announced it yet, but as part of this webinar, we already wanted to mention it. And then we have Katie on special projects, who's the ex-CPO of Adjust. So you can see it's like the Adjust crew is in here twice. Member of the Forbes Technology Council, a founder of Chief, CEO of Hands. So basically all like CEO founder characters. And we're basically here to make you succeed with your venture and build a $10 billion company, right? And because you need to do more and better and faster than what we've done. So we hope that many people even build bigger stuff than what we have built. So let me chat a little bit about the community. I guess I'm already over time. Yeah, I'm 10 minutes in now. So let me speed up. We do a lot of stuff to bring people together. We ran 2 times a year for probably 2 months each, right? So 4 months a year. We're in San Francisco. And then we hike in Yosemite. We do a pitch. We connect with the strongest investors we know there. Every day, 2 unicorn founders or prolific fund GPs like Sequoia come by. So actually, at the end of leaving the San Francisco residency, you will have met personally more than 50 unicorn founders and fund GPs. You will also have been able to build a relationship with them. We always do this during lunch and dinners so that we can be productive during that time. We do community houses all across Europe. I'm in one of them right now in a telephone box with like 20 other EWOR fellows, venture scouts, and even applicants around here. So 3 people who are here, they applied, they're not yet in. We wanted to get to know them. We invited them, and we're in Tenerife in the mountains. It's an incredible experience. I'm here since 5 weeks now. You should stay at least for 1 week. Many stay longer. And this is another, I would say, 3 to 4 months a year, and where we just have these community houses. So more than half the year, you can basically just be part of EWOR Places. But you don't have to. That's what we mean with modular, right? Some of the people we back have a family and they just can't do this, right? So it really depends on what you want. But if you do like community, you can get a lot out of EWOR and these experiences. We also run the EWOR Connect. The last one was in Morocco. The next one's happening in 3 weeks in Maui. We have invited 30 guests. We always just do 30 founders. The last 30 fellows we selected, right? And then 30 guests that have either built a unicorn or invested in at least 3 unicorns. So the bar for making it to EWOR Connect is exceptionally high, and everyone you run into is like an absolute rock star. Because it's our job, right, to bring you in front of like the most extraordinary people worldwide. And the way EWOR is built next to the community is of course an important part, but where the actual value lies is here, right? We help you get ARR fast. Our goal at the moment, we're not there yet, but our goal at the moment is we give you $1 million dollars in annual recurring revenue, right? How do we do that? By already knowing the innovators on the crossing the chasm curve, like the ones that buy from you super early, that want this, that love this, and building a community with them, right? So next to everything I've showed here, we are running a customer community, we're running an investor community, we're running a talent community to help you sell, to help you hire, to help you fundraise, right? And this we've just kicked off this year. We ran our first discovery day where a lot of potential buyers joined. Our first sale already happened from it. It's still in its infancy, but I believe in a year or so, we should be able to just deliver $1 million ARR to like the fellows. And this is also our job. We see us as builders at EWOR, right? Like we get bored if you don't build stuff. You don't build a team like this if you don't want to build and do amazing things, right? So we've built a platform, we built this like discovery day, customer community, and so on to help you sell faster. Then we have over 50,000 applicants right now, vectorized, that we can introduce you to. We are at the moment just revamping everything so that it's fully perfectly GDPR compliant. We've just gotten a couple of notes that we need to check a couple of things there. But at this point, we have a fully perfectly compliant database that allows us to basically introduce you to incredible other people that we've interviewed, that we still remember possibly, that barely made it into the fellowship, right? We've declined a couple of people this year that had 10, 20, $30 million exits. They're incredible founders, operators. We just saw other people that were stronger, but we still loved them and would have probably angel invested in them and so on. And we can introduce you to those people the moment you're a fellow, and possibly they're gonna join your founding team, right? So I think in this year I can make over 100 hires just for EWOR fellows, just using this, right? So you can expect to make like 3 absolutely stellar hires that are just on the level that you have as co-founders through EWOR. And of course, fundraising. I shared the numbers earlier. I believe at this point, when you look at expected value per founder, we're probably the best in the world. I haven't fact-checked this, but I don't think there's anything else where you raise more and have a higher chance of like a 9-figure valuation. We of course help you to tap into the SF ecosystem, and we help you to grow as a person. I've actually personally written a 350 pager with over 500 studies on founder productivity. And what I lay down in this framework is a framework to grow as a founder and to maximize the time you have, your mental health, your productivity, anything you need to be successful over the next 20 years. And this also, from time to time, still includes sleepless nights. And we just had a huge discussion online with someone who got very angry and said, "Hey guys, like this is you expect too much from your people." We expect a lot. Like there's very few people who build a $10 billion organization, right? And that means you really need to manage your productivity and you need to understand your body and you need to treat your journey towards 10 billion like an Olympic athlete that wins to win a gold medal, right? And we have a lot of like content and modules, and this culminates in the perfect week where we're all together. I'm there, Petter is there, and we organize a week in which we follow all of the principles from that 350 pager. And then we built EWOR circles that you can imagine like your little forums where you are connected to 5 to 7 other EWOR fellows on a regular basis, and you constantly check in with them and spar with them, and those can become your best friends and your deepest advisors, and they kind of co-build this unicorn with you alongside. And so this is how EWOR works. In a nutshell, we help you raise an oversubscribed round, hire the very best talent in the world, sell faster, better, and smarter, and embark on a once-in-a-lifetime personal development journey. I guess this is it. Just the deal left to explain, right? We have 2 different functions. The first one is Traction Fellowship, where they give you 500K upfront. First, like before we even start, you get the money. And that basically is to get you from a validated idea with traction to like a 9-figure valuation, a proper company with like 10, 20 people, whatever, in 6 months. And that's insanely fast, right? And we're looking for people who can go the speed. And then our network and our door is open. But that's what we're looking for. And the next one is the Ideation Fellowship, where you can literally apply without an idea, alone as a person. We always ask you to submit one because everyone has at least one. And we want to see how you think commercially, and looking at your idea tells us a little bit about how you think. So in the application form, we will ask you about your idea. That doesn't mean that we take it into account a lot when we select you. I will actually, I was meant to do this today, but I'm making an offer tonight to a person who's just completely blank. She doesn't yet have an idea, and I met her, and we believe she is a person who's just absolutely incredible. There's no co-founder yet. There is no specific idea they're working on, and I will send out this offer tonight, right? And what we do there is we help with the ideation process. Alex Krootz, as I said earlier, is what I believe one of the best people in the world to do this. And that's also what we want at EWOR, right? Maybe last note. We're looking to build global number ones with you. We're not looking for you to build a European champion and then maybe a US competitor buys you. No, that's not our ambition. We want you to build a global number one, possibly from Europe, possibly from the US, from San Francisco. We don't care. We want to find global winners and support them from the get-go, right? And that's what this is for. So we ideate something until it's perfect. We literally have people, they already have 2-3 million that is offered to them, and we say, no, don't do it yet. It's not good enough. Even though people are offering money, we will keep iterating. We will keep making this perfect, and then we go out and go big. And of course, we help you then find the right co-founder and the right setup, the right support in order to have that foundation for like a $1 billion organization. And the first unicorn is already on it. It has already happened. Peak is now worth 3.2 billion or something. At least at the peak valuation it was. And we have 2 more on the way right now that have not yet signed term sheets, but I think this year it will happen. And for just 3 years 3 years investing, I'm quite proud and happy about this fact, right? This means most unicorns happen over 4 to 10 years. So we already have some people who have done it earlier, which is amazing. So I guess that's it. Here are the terms again, very transparently so that you can see them. Not much comment from my side. You can see them all on the website, right? Ideation means we have some getting to know period and we will not immediately invest. We actually take less ideation fellows than traction. Traction is very easy for us. Ideation takes us a lot of time, which is our scarcest resource. We take this very seriously. So we take less ideation fellows, but our investment therefore is optional. We get to know you first. Yeah, some honest reflections. This is not for everyone. I have said this during all of the past webinars. I think by now it's clear. You see what the fellows are up to. Like obviously this is not for everyone, right? So I'm gonna skip this. So now you can apply here. This is the QR code. You can go to ewor.com/apply. You can scan this, and then we will make sure to review your application fast. Typically, especially right now, It's not yet peak volume. So right now I can pretty much guarantee a review within like 5 to 6 days typically. I'm always looking at applications and I can see when they applied, right? And when I look today, most of those applications came in 2 days ago, 3 days ago, latest 6 days ago, right? So this is how fast we can be at the moment. Every single person from the team, right? And we have a 30 people team is looking at applications every day. So we have a lot of time to kind of process stuff. I hope that was insightful, and I hope you guys learned a little bit more about the EWOR Fellowship, especially those of you who do this for the first time. I hope the ones that have been here a couple of times. I always get questions from people who say, "Hey, this is my third webinar. I'm excited. You always move fast and build new stuff." I hope that exactly this happened. You were excited about the new updates of EWOR, about the new stuff we've built, about the new metrics we have achieved. We're also constantly trying to get better, to improve. Every year we reinvent ourselves. And at the end of the year, we basically try to say, hey, what does the fellowship need to do? And then we scratch 30% and we add the new 30% and test it and experiment with it, right? So we're building our own company here. We're doing build, measure, learn. This is primarily our money that we're putting in. We deeply, deeply care about everyone's success. And I really hope you do apply. But now to the questions. I've gone 10 minutes longer than I thought. Apologies for this. I will look at the Q&A right now and go for the most upvoted questions. The first one has 5 upvotes. Feel free to upvote each other's questions, by the way, and then I can see which ones are the most important to you. Make also sure you ask those questions in the Q&A. Maybe, Philip, you can also delete the chat because a lot of people are asking questions in the chat. So we can make sure that all questions are actually asked in the Q&A section. For all of you that are putting stuff in the chat, I will not see this. I'm sorry. Please click on the Q&A button down there, and then using this, I will actually see your question. There you can upvote. Very, very important. Otherwise, it will probably not be seen. I will say this a couple of times moving forward just to make sure that everyone is aware of this. And now going to the first question. Does EWOR accept B2C companies? Yes, we do. We have so one of the companies that I just showed you from Martin Wasowski is actually a B2C company, and I'm pretty sure this company could become a unicorn this year, right? So we absolutely do B2C, especially in healthcare. It's right now super interesting, especially healthcare with the US focus. And we've also done other B2C companies. We haven't done a whole ton of B2C companies recently because we also believe that primarily AI right now, it it leads to the eradication of knowledge work, right? It's quite crazy. 50 trillion of money that is put into wages of people who now have to reskill, right? And possibly also will be replaced. And that is where a lot of AI B2B software is playing. We did some investments there, but we obviously do B2C companies. If it's a great idea, if it has $10 billion potential, we're all for it. We're in. So I hope that helps and answers the question. Let me reload and see if we have a new one. Yes, Shaheen is the new most upvoted question. Thanks for the opportunity. My question is, when you say top 0.1 of founders, what actually defines that for you? Is it formal education, deep domain expertise, what someone built and proved? Excellent question already. I'm building a wealth creation platform for 300 million migrants around the world, one country at a time. Is it exciting for EWOR? So first answer to your second question, yes, it is exciting. I think this is one of the biggest topics right now, and the big question for us here, right, is what you're building going to be built by the kind of trade republics or Robin Hoods of this world, or is it going to be built by a new entrant, right? And we have a lot of thesis actually around the wealth management, at least. If it's wealth creation, might be something else entirely, right? So I'd be very curious about this. Also, migration globally is like an upwards facing trend, right? So this is definitely an interesting idea. And I also believe that most returns in venture capital got created. It depends on how you look at the statistics. Got created by immigrant founders, right? And therefore, super excited about what you're building. And there, I would love to learn more. Um, on your question on what defines, like a 0.1% founder. This is the hardest question we ask ourselves every single day, right? And I've just rewritten a new selection framework. I've read biographies of decacorn founders, 50 of them by now, I think. I now in my portfolio, right? I have 20 plus unicorn founders, 7 companies, right? So I talk to them a lot. I have many of them I know as friends, like over 5 years now. I try to understand what are the patterns, what do they do. I constantly update this, but I think anyone who would tell you I perfectly know what it is, they're lying to you. It's like I'm a statistician, I'm a mathematician, and it's impossible to perfectly tell, right? So what do we do to actually tell? Like, what is our proxy, right? So first of all, if you went to Harvard, this means something. You're probably clever, you're probably hardworking, you're probably disciplined. Like I know something from this information. Doesn't mean you're building a unicorn, right? Like I probably prefer a hustler from Moldova who has quit high school and actually started publishing papers on their own over like your plain vanilla Harvard grad. And by the way, this is a real example. I actually backed this founder from Moldova, 150 no's from VCs. We were the first ones to really come in and then raised a 10 million round with Andreessen Horowitz and Lux Capital, now living in Barcelona and building an incredible company there. So this is a real story. I don't care where you're from. Like you need to have it, right? Like, and that you have it means you're determined, you're obsessed, right? This is your number one thing. I just don't think you build a $10 billion company if you have something else that is more important to you, right? And I'm not saying it should be the most important thing to you. Actually, if you ask a lot of $10 billion founders, they will tell you they're living unhappy lives, right? EWOR is not built for happiness, nor do I always feel like super happy building like valuable organizations. It's built for people who really want to enact change and change something out there. Um, and therefore, um, you need to have this obsession. It needs to be your priority, right? Like otherwise, it probably won't happen. Secondly, we look for people who are resilient. If you quit, I can give you the mathematics of resilience. If you quit too early, right, you probably won't make it. 97% of unicorn founders we interviewed had at least one or more um, professional near-death experiences. This means they couldn't pay bankroll next week or something. And Germany is even fraud to continue at this point, right? Like you can't do this. But they continued and they made it, and they're where they are right now. So had they stopped at this point, 97% of them would not have made it, right? And that is also how I look at the statistics of resilience. If you are not resilient, you are 97% less likely, empirically speaking, just extrapolating this finding to your own probabilistic self, right? 97% less likely. And I think you ought to be resilient. I can't believe how many people told me at like $6 million valuation, like, oh, this is never gonna work, and you're stupid, and you a bad founder, right? And had I listened to them, I wouldn't have built valuable organizations, right? You need to be resilient and a bit stubborn. We also think, right? And you need to be able to do something that other people can't do. So we also look at that, right? That can be a very unique skill set. That can be many things, right? Access to data, to resources, like whatever. But to give you three things, I hope that clarifies a little bit what we're looking for. And I saw the questions in the chat now ended, so I think everyone has to use this Q&A thing. So I'm gonna keep asking there. But Shaheen, I hope this really clarified your question. And I'm now trying to move a little bit faster. We have a new one with 14 upvotes. Let me answer that live. How about founders who have built POC but haven't gotten much traction? It is right in between of the two modes you mentioned. They are past ideation, but they're before traction. What traction are you looking for? Like 10K MRR, 100K MRR. So 100K MRR would always be almost be too late, right? It depends. We have accepted 2 people who were beyond 100K MRR actually. And at this point, we might also just say, hey, like you were very far, we write intros for you and we help you raise. And we only want to take a stake if we truly believe we make a difference. And by now, the majority of people you will call, they give you a super positive answer about what we do, right? And that is why EWOR works. And that's how we work, like growing that fast, right? So we have to make a difference. It's typically, I would say, below 50K MR. Most traction fellows, I would say, are in the single digits of MRR, or even below. And keep in mind, for software company, so for e-commerce, it's actually low, right? So for an e-commerce, like we would probably want to see more than 100K MRR for an e-commerce company, right? For a SaaS company, we would probably want to see around 1 to 10K, depending on from whom, churn, and so on, right? Like, and for a deep tech company, traction for us doesn't even mean ARR because it's deep tech, right? Traction means patents, advisors, prototypes, whatnot, right? And some people even apply and say, I need money to build a prototype, right? I can't do it before. Then we look at other forms of traction. So it really depends, and this is also very unique at EWOR. This is the good thing about not giving you a number. The bad thing is, oh, there's no perfect recipe, sure. But the good thing is we really look very uniquely at your company. And if you apply, and let's say you apply for ideation or traction, doesn't matter to us. We believe you should do the traction fellowship. We will just tell you. We had ideation applicants that we told, hey, you should do traction. And we've had traction applicants that we told, hey, you should do ideation. A funny story, last year, someone applied and said, I have 1 million ARR with my company, logistics company. And we said, we love you. You're absolutely extraordinary, but this company, for multiple reasons, and we listed the reasons, will not make it to a billion. It probably won't be possible. And but if you want to build something else, approach us, right? And 2 weeks later, that person came back and said, I thought about it. You're probably right. I'm ready to do the ideation fellowship instead. Did the ideation fellowship, and we put in the money 2 weeks later, actually, because that person just moved so fast, built a music business. That music business is called Mozart AI. You can check it out online. It's a really cool company. I will put it into the chat. I think I can still put stuff in there, Mozart AI. And then a month later, raised a multi-million angel round with us. And then 4 months later, raised $6 million, if I'm not mistaken, led by Balderton. Daniel Waterhouse put in the check, who also was the guy to buy 20% of Revolut pre-seed. So very, very good investor. And that's how fast it can go, right? And sometimes we do want to talk to you. We don't believe in the idea the moment we already talk to you. And then either you convince us. I have a lot of conversations where I say, hey, I don't believe this will work. And then the other person convinces me that it will actually work because I have limited knowledge, right? Who dare I to be to tell people with like a little bit of helicopter view, like, hey, this won't work, right? Like I need to understand more, and I have an intuition as an investor because by now I've done these 50 companies, right, and 100 through EWOR, and possibly I see some patterns. But most of the time, founders prove me wrong and say, hey, like actually no, like it's you have a wrong perspective here, Daniel, right? I'm very open to this, but sometimes we convince the other person, and they're like, oh wow, really, you're right here, and then they try to they pivot and they do the ideation fellowship, and then it can go as fast as with Mozart AI, right? Like I have more than 10 other examples that just go like Mozart. So I'm very sorry, I can't give you a perfect answer on the kind of traction ideation, but we will figure things out. Whatever you apply for, if we believe it's not the right thing and we're excited enough to interview, then in the interview we can figure it out together. We always find a fair solution. All right, let's see who comes next. Silvio comes next, and there's already a bit of text going on. What do you prefer, funds with exit experience or freshmen? According to the statistics, I should prefer freshmen, right? Because all trillion-dollar founders but one actually were freshmen, right? I don't know. I don't try to discriminate, right? I have a problem with most investors actually because they apply these rules they say, oh, you cannot be a solo founder. Solo founders are less likely. Yes, solo founders are less likely. But if you look deeper, solo founders are more likely to succeed if they're serial entrepreneurs. They're less likely to succeed as they're first-time founders, right? So it's more complicated. And then some people are like, oh, should you have an exit before? Should you not have? You can't discriminate on a single dimension. And if you could do that, you could build an algorithm that tells you whether this is going to be a unicorn. But you can't. You can't build an algorithm that tells you, right? It's too complex for this. So the short answer is I don't care. Like an exit, it means something. It means you can execute. We decline some exited founders, some founders that have made multiple hundreds of millions for themselves because we feel they're not hungry anymore, right? Like they've made their money and they're chilling around now, and it's all of the push is kind of gone. They were motivated by money. They're not motivated anymore. And we meet other people, they make hundreds of millions, and they're still as motivated because they want to make an impact. Right? It's just impossible to tell. It really depends on the conversation. So if you had an exit, we look at that. We want to understand, what did you exit? What do you build? Were you the main person behind this, or did you piggyback on someone? We will look at this, but we will try to make a unique decision, right? And at EWOR, we really have the time. We don't do a 10-minute interview and then like, okay, here 500K. We do 3 interviews. And we really want to get to know you. And we will spend so much time with you over the next 18 months, right? So we look at everything, the full picture, and then we make a choice. And we can't discriminate on a single dimension. Applying from London, but wanting to build a decacorn company in Asia. And should first-time founders straight out of university not do deep tech? So 2 questions that I can't answer again. I think if you have a unique thing in Asia, like it should be unique about you. If you just like you grew up in Britain, you spent all your life in Britain, you're studying in London, you now want to build a decacorn in Asia, I would have question marks, right? And again, if you're a first-time founder, doing deep tech, Alphonse is a first-time founder, built a $300 million company in like 6 months. So it's totally possible. We at EWOR, like that's our job, right? At EWOR, we believe anything is possible. They're just less likely and more likely, right? And we need to weigh the probabilities. But anything is possible. So if you want to build a $10 billion, you might be able to convince us, right? It really depends on how good it is. I would not exclude it, but I would say it's quite unlikely. And also, you're less likely to succeed with a deep tech idea if you're a first-time founder. Like most deep tech founders are second-time founders. That doesn't mean we need to see it, right? So very sneaky that worked. I should actually not do this. Uh, Untouched domain of mine, bootstrapped, 100 million exit domain expertise, now have a new totally. Very cool. Congrats, Silvio. I would love to talk. If you apply, I'm pretty sure the 100 million exit will be a first signal that we say, at least let's talk, and then we'll debunk it and take it apart and be like, hey, let's have a chat. But very cool. And a great question. Thank you for that. All right. Let's oh, I should have clicked on answer live. Sorry, I didn't do that. I will do that next time. All right. Next one. Nicola Nixa is asking, EWOR uses ML-driven pattern recognition and evidence-based testing to identify outliers beyond technical excellence. Were the specific nonlinear life experiences or personality traits that your system flags as the strongest predictors of founder's ability to build a billion-dollar company? Great question. It is actually what I wrote a whole thesis on, right? So I could now talk for the final 14 minutes just on this topic, right? I'll give you the highlights. The most important highlight is you can't do ML-driven decisions. I don't believe in this, right? So it's not like EWOR has this algorithm and then the algorithm decides. All the algorithm does is it gives us more information, right? So when we look at at an application, we look for so-called out of distribution indicators, right? So we want to understand in a regular did you do stuff before, which is, by the way, my first answer to your question. If you can plot things on a Gauss curve, and you don't always can, but we have so many applicants by now that we can for most things, even if you're playing horseball, which is a sport very few people play. I've written an application where someone said, oh, I'm like the #1 in my country in horseball, which is kind of the equivalent to like being a decent football player in your city, right? We know this because we can plot the distribution curves, right? And kind of understand. is this an outlier indication or not, right? Also, your H index, your citations academically, right? We can put that all into perspective, and we want to see, is this rare to achieve? We love to back people that do rare stuff, right? And we're, of course, using machine learning to help us with this. But it's a little bit like playing chess, right? If you have a machine playing chess, which is, by the way, way more simple than outlier founder detection, um, there sometimes you probably know all of the deep mind stories there, right? Then they beat the humans, then the humans learn from the machines and beat the machines again, and so on and so forth, right? That is a whole head-to-head race. But if you give a human the capabilities of a machine, so you have one human that can use a calculator on the side and machine learning algorithms to do chess moves and calculate things. They always win against only humans and only machines. So human plus machine always wins, always stronger. And that is our philosophy as well. So what I've built at EWOR is a system that helps me make decisions. It calculates stuff for me. It finds out of distribution indicators and whatnot. But then I look at it and I use my brain and I actually think, right? Which most investors don't do. I have another funny story for you guys. We literally had one fellow. He got incredible company, got rejected after rejection, and they all gave the same reason. And we're like, what is going on? We put this deck in Claude, and Claude from Anthropic said, oh, I wouldn't invest for this reason, which is a stupid reason, by the way. LLMs are really bad in decision making, and there's a lot of data that shows that LLMs are not, it looks like they reason well, but they don't reason well. They're not actually thinking. So Claude said no. So he said, can we change the deck to just have Claude say yes, right? So we did a couple of changes. Suddenly Claude says, yes, I would invest. It's like nothing major actually. But anyway, Claude suddenly liked it. 2 weeks later, 3 term sheets from investors, multi-million term sheets. Like people don't think anymore. It drives me crazy, and we we tend to think at EWOR. It also makes us really unique, and I think the statistics are good right now because we actually think. So um, yeah, and Nicola pushed back and said, yeah, it's normal to a large number. Yes, we do look at a large number, but we do look at it. No application is rejected by machine learning algorithm calculating whether you are an outlier and then saying you are not an outlier and because of that reason rejecting you. That is not happening. We are faster because we have this, but we are not. We always think everyone deserves a chance, right? I'm a village kid that somehow got out of this village and ended up now giving this webinar. So like I love other village kids and people who maybe didn't like have parents that afforded Harvard for them, right, in their bachelors because they had money, right? Like, and some of those people still build unicorns. We want to back them as well, right? We don't discriminate anyone. And even if you're a born billionaire, you might have a crazy drive and build something, right? Like that's okay, but even if you're born in a Moldovan village, you should get a chance too. And that's really motivating for me and like a main reason of why I love building EVO. Um, how long does it take to get back from you guys if you already applied? Shouldn't take longer than a week. If we are actually sometimes we are a bit slower because it's the peak of the application cycle, right? But typically we should be able to get back in a week. I have 9 pending applications right now that I should get off my desk. So possibly I'm beyond that threshold because I had some crazy days, but typically a week. All right, next question. What are EVO's expectations of the application and the idea? A lot of expectations. Many of them you will find on the website and is in the FAQ and in the application form actually. So on the application, we really want to see the stuff that makes you out of distribution, right? So that when we ask about key achievements, what did you do that is that's really crazy, right? That no one else would do or no one else could do or that it shows us that you have what it takes, right? And that's so different, like from sports to like academic achievement to crazy puzzles you solved alone in your childhood, like whatever it is. Tell us about the stories that make you crazy. We love crazy people at EWOR. We are built for people who are not normal, right? If you want to do something normal, live a normal life, don't do EWOR. That's not what we built for. The second thing on like, what about the idea? The easy answer is we believe, and we of course bias that, like, but we want to see things that could actually get really big. And that means the market is big enough for this. Doesn't mean it has to be big enough now. Google thought they would cap at $1 million revenue because back then making ads on the internet wasn't a thing, right? So in AI, we have a lot of things. We look at this and our gut feeling kind of tells us, yeah, will be big. We can't express it in numbers. It's our money. Who cares? Like we can do what we want, right? Like, so we trust our intuition. And we're not like these investors doing an Excel sheet and then saying like, oh yeah, like the market size isn't big enough, but it should be big. And that means both gut feeling and rational thinking, right? And it should be big. It should be able to get big, right? And Google obviously was able to get big. And I think if you looked at it back then with common sense, you could have seen that, right? That's why it got funded by Kleiner Perkins and Sequoia. First double Kleiner Sequoia investment never happened before. Secondly, it should be scalable. If you're running a consultancy, it's not interesting for us, right? It should really be scalable. It should be tech or whatever, or at least a platform or marketplace, whatever, that scales, because otherwise it will take 30 years until 1 billion, and we see people doing it in 3 to 4 years, right? So it should be scalable tech. And thirdly, you should be uniquely positioned to work on this idea. If you are a crazy biotech PhD and you're suddenly pitching a web shop to us, we are at least skeptical. We have funded like this as well, and sometimes it's just a fit, right? Like not any of those criteria is a no. We always look at the full picture, right? And therefore, it needs to have a lot of potential. I know that's an easy answer, but that's the only answer I can give you. All right. How should startups that are at ideation stage show their strength? The key achievements thing, that's your thing to shine. Like that's where I spend most time at looking at an application. Like that, show us how you are unique, right? You as a person. In the end, billion-dollar companies are built by people, right? And we invest in people at EWOR, like primarily in people. So if you can show us that you're unique, that's the main thing. The idea, of course, build a decent pitch deck. I see more than 10,000 pitch decks a year, right? Like I know how the Claude designed and how the OpenAI designed and how the Gemini designed decks look like. So if your first idea is to throw this into Claude and say to create it, at least ask it in the prompt, right? To like do something different so that it's maybe not the standard design, the colors Claude always chooses. I see this, I'm tired of it. And we look for uniqueness, right? And then doing this, maybe not the best thing to do, right? I've also invested in companies that basically just had an A4 page. It was a really good idea. It was like 7 bullet points on an A4 page. And I read it and I like this way more than a pitch deck designed by AI. So in the end, if it is exciting, just find some way to communicate it. And no, we invest in hardware, right? I showed the story of Alphonse earlier. He built a street power plant, 300 million valuation in 6 months with a hardware company, full on hardcore hardware, right? And we have another founder, our first ever traction fellow, actually built an underwater flywheel, incredible company, probably soon the cheapest energy storage technology on the market. Hardware company. We love hardware. Hardware is hard, but we love hard stuff, right? So we love hardware, but show us that things can scale. All right. I should have again clicked on answer live. I've again forgotten. Sorry for that. Next one. Meltem is asking, do you have an age and gender preference? No, we don't. We absolutely don't. We don't think age and gender in any way defines your success as a startup. And we have backed 65-year-olds is our oldest, but because way less older people apply, right? So the base rate isn't there. But like we would love to see more people with experience that apply. And we've backed people in their 60s. And we've backed all genders. And I think compared to the industry, there's a whole big problem the industry I think has in this distribution. We have like 10 times the rate than your ordinary VC and like female founders and so on. So no, like we couldn't care less. Do you accept fellows pre-idea also? Yes, we absolutely do. You don't have to submit. You have to submit an idea, but that is just for us to evaluate how you think. You don't have to work on this idea, and you can be completely pre-idea. But you should at least submit something that shows us you can recognize opportunity, right? And if you pitch something and it's competitive and say, yes, it's competitive, but I think I have an edge, that's fine, right? But it should show us how you think. That's why we're asking for an idea, but you don't have one. I shared a story earlier, so that your question might have been answered by that story, to be honest. Sorry for answering it twice, right? Of a founder, I'm just admitting that is that actually doesn't have any clue of what they're working on. Alrighty. Abdel Krim is asking, let me highlight this. How does a fellowship balance between chasing billion-dollar company and actually making an impact? Actually, most billion-dollar companies um so the valuation of your company correlates very strongly with the impact you make. And there's very few companies that absolutely change the world and are not billion-dollar, right? Very, very few. They exist, non-profits. We don't do non-profits, by the way. I built a separate thing, Sigma Squared Society, that also supports like non-profits and so on. I think it's important, but for EWOR, the way it works, we choose for-profit business models. And then, of course, when you go big, it doesn't mean you actually do an impact, right? And we prefer companies that make an impact, but we don't comply with any impact frameworks out there because I believe it's impossible to define an impact. It's way too complex. And people who say, oh, yeah, like this is the impact multiple and this is how you define it and all of the metrics out there, I don't believe in them. I could now give you a 10-minute monologue on the flaws behind these models, right? So, in the end, we want to invest in people with a strong ethical mindset who, as a founder, are good people. And we do a lot of ref calls. We do want to know, are you a good person? We don't invest in alcohol, weapons that can be used actively. We actually believe defense can be a good thing, but it should be really it shouldn't kill people. And we don't invest in smoking and stuff that makes you die, right? So all of this kind of stuff we don't touch. But in the end, it's kind of us looking at everything again and saying, yes, we do believe this person is going to change the world for the better. Good. Moritz is asking. And I can go a little bit over time. Let me go 4 minutes over time. Let me reload. Okay. So Moritz asks, do you have a preference in industry that will probably have a better chance in getting accepted? SaaS is dead, hardware it is. So we do love hardware, yes. We have made quite a couple of hardware investments recently. Big fans of exciting hardware plays, but it should be scalable, right? It should be unique. We do invest in SaaS. We don't believe all SaaS is dead. This is again what I don't like about investors, right? Like now someone said all SaaS is dead, which SaaS is just a business model, right? So like the way you deliver value, like the history of SaaS, right? It's quite complex. It got actually invented by Salesforce. Salesforce invented the term SaaS in order to explain what they're doing and have this license model and so on, right? Like, and SaaS isn't entirely dead. A lot of SaaS companies are suffering for good reason, and I generally agree with the trend that SaaS is struggling harder. That's 100% that is happening, but it's not that black and white, right? It's way more complicated than this. And it might actually require you just to change your business model. And we know all of this stuff, right? Like we see 40,000 applications a year by now. We can help you. This is not kind of stuff we discriminate on. We couldn't care less about your business model because we can help you figure this out, right? We care way more about like who you are as a person. We do, of course, love industries that are big, where a lot of stuff can happen. We love industries that are disruptible. We don't like industries so much that are like where everyone is kind of inaccessible. But then again, like there are exceptions, and crazy founders make crazy things happen, right? So there's no industries we discriminate or so. We would probably discriminate, of course, porn and weapons and alcohol and cigarettes and so on, right? But like that's basically it, as explained earlier. Um, AI service companies like forward deployed, sure, we love this, right? We love companies that take service that used to be service and turn it into software. Very cool. Sequoia just wrote a strong article about it. We actually had talked about this 6 months earlier already. So we are big believers in this trend, and we just think Sequoia like very beautifully put this. Um, and then what about non-standard SaaS, but a local first SaaS? Yeah, I think I've explained this, right? Like we do SaaS. It just needs to be good and it needs to make sense in the 21st century in 2026, right? And as long as it does, we're here to help. Cool. All right. Does EWOR publish the list of startup ideas it is looking for? We don't. We do publish ideas we like from time to time. I actually sometimes even co-found companies with EWOR Fellows where I'm like, hey, I have a great idea. I assemble the team, I write a little bit of code, I help with the strategy, I close the first round, but then I go hands off again. So we do have preferences and ideas, and we do share them on LinkedIn, but we, we don't want to manipulate people. We believe that the best founders in the world, they have these completely unique, and it's like way better than what we could come up with, right? Because that's all they think about. And okay, I can come up with a list of 20 ideas that I think about for like 5 minutes, and that might actually be good because I've looked at many ideas, but they're not going to be world changing because world changing ideas are developed by people who can't stop thinking about this for years. And that's what we're looking for, right? So we don't do these lists of like startup call and like work on these things. We don't do it. We don't believe in it. We look for people who are beyond this. How important are referrals? They are important, yeah, because we get so many applications by now. It's just so hard. It's like, and it drives me personally crazy. It's going to be the last question, by the way, but it drives me crazy to just have so little time. It's just how it works, right? As a founder, I always got angry when investors told me, like, "Oh, I don't have time." Now I get it, right? Now I'm both at the same time, and it's like as an investor, you see 10,000 companies, and like as a founder, you maybe you go to 50 investors, right? So it's just unproportional, sadly, right? So we do need to look at referrals. So if someone we know who has great taste in people and ideas tells us this is a person you absolutely need to look at, we do care. We do care about these referrals because it helps us, because it's just too much, right? And among 1,000 ideas from people we don't know and we know no one who knows them, there are brilliant ones out there, but we find them faster if we get referrals. So the sad answer that breaks my heart a little bit is referrals are actually quite important to us, simply because otherwise we cannot stomach all of the volume. All right, guys, I hope that was useful. I hope that helped. I hope that gave you a good idea. Amazing to see so many people still in here. Thank you for surviving that long and for staying around. I can't wait to read many applications. I really hope I'll speak many of you soon in interviews, and many of you speak the other people you've seen in the slide deck soon and get to know them. It's been a blast for me as well. Great questions, guys. I've done webinars 2 years ago, and the questions were quite blunt. By now, there's some self-selection going on, and your questions are actually brilliant. So thank you for that. And I will see you all very soon, hopefully. Have a lovely rest of your evening. Bye bye. Ciao, ciao.